Hello everyone, this is going to be the second part of mastering Unreal Engine using C++ and Visual Studio. In previous part of tutorial what we did was we created some variables and implemented those variables in the blueprint itself. In this part we are going to understand the functions by using a system which is basically a low-code system. So what it exactly does is, if we want to focus on to an object, right, which is moving far or closer to you and you don't want to miss the sight of that particular object, you use a lock-on system which exactly which focuses your attention towards that particular object. Many games use that lock-on system to to focus your attention onto the character that they created, or any function which they want you to focus on to. So that is what we are going to create to understand functions and different actions that we are going to create. So here I have created a project in Unreal Engine using third person blueprint, and here I have created an enemy character. This enemy character is basically the child of BP third person character, right? And I have named it enemy. You can create this enemy by going into your third person. If you have included starter content, then click on it and create a child blueprint class and then name the child as enemy. So this is and I have given it different material and texture, so as I can differentiate it with my own character. So let's start creating some variables and functions. So as we know we declare variables in .h file, so this is basically it. And the basic C++ syntax to create a function is like that, like this, right? And you can create a function like this, but as we are using um, Unreal Engine, so why don't we use the Unreal Engine functionalities, right? So you have to use u function macro to create functions, and you have to pass various arguments as keywords. So there are many keywords. uh, in the previous tutorial we also discussed how many keywords are there and how you can use them. You can look up to those keywords in the Unreal Engine documentation. I can also provide that link. So I will pass first uh, keyword, which is basically blueprint callable. Then the category which under which I want it to appear will be my functions. So it will be my functions, and the name of the function will be void, so it will return nothing, and toggle lock-on. So this is going to be the name of the function, and other variable which, or the function that I'm going to create is virtual void tick function, which has parameter float and and float of delta time. And we want to override this function, right? So virtual is basically if you want to edit the a particular parent class through a derived class. So what is a derived class? The class which we create through the parent class itself, and when you want to edit or modify the data in the parent class through the derived or the child class, you will use this virtual keyword, and the function will return nothing. And the main the function, or you can say the main parent which we want to, the main function which we want to override is tick function. So we want to override this tick function, which is in the other other class, parent class. So we are going to access this function and we are going to override it, write it, right? We are going to modify it basically. and the parameter which it takes is delta time. So what is a tick function? So tick function is basically used when we want to override the parameters of a particular object every tick or every frame. So we use this tick function, and the parameter is basically uh, which this function uses is a float delta time. Delta time is basically when we want our animations and character movement to be smoother regardless of the the frame rate, and the override is basically we are going to modify it, so we are using this. And the variables which we are going to use, so we will create those variables now. I'm not going to go through how you are going to create a variable, as I have explained this in the previous tutorial, so you can go check the previous tutorial out, so you can continue with this. So the category under which they will appear will be my variables, and the first variable will be of boolean type, and this will be the first. Let me just copy this. Second will be of AA type. I will explain all these variables after I'm done creating these variables. So is of to give it input to toggle on and off the lock on system. We are going to give it a key, so which will come from the input action class. I will use the pointer, so the name will be so I think these are basically it, and let me explain these variables. So the first variable is used to check if we are locked on to something or not. If we are locked on to something, it will pass the value true or 1, and if we are not locked on to something, it will pass the value false or 0 or null, you can say. And the second variable is basically we are declaring, or we can say we are confirming that we want to lock onto the character which is basically of AA actor type. So AA actor is basically the the base class for our characters in Unreal Engine. So my small character, the main character, right, the C++ guy, this is also the child of that particular AA actor type. So our the lockdown actor will be of AA actor character, which will be named lockdown actor. So, and other variable which we are going to use is a T array. T array is basically dynamic array, so we can modify it and add. We don't have to specify the size of this particular array, which we are not able to do in the normal array, right? And the other variable which we are going to use is to set the height of lock on system. So if you want to adjust the height when we focus onto the the character, right? And other variable which we are going to use is a u input action type. So basically we are going to use this action to combine our key binding, so combine our key to that particular function. So we are going to use this action. So now we will create the definition for these two functions in the .cpp file, but before that we are going to create a enhanced input component. So basically we are going to give a key for perform our the lock-on system. So you can create, you can map that key through here also, going to project setting, then going under engine and input, and you can set the action mapping and add, and name the particular action that you want to perform, and then key bind a particular key. But as we are um, using a advanced version of Unreal Engine, so we are going to create enhanced inputs, right? So basically what you are going to do, if you have included starter content, and if you have not included starter content, you don't need to worry, you can create a folder, then input, you can name it input, etc. Then you want to create an action, right? So what you can do is right click, then go into input, then create an input action. So I will name this lock on action, right? So this will be it for the creating an input action. Then we will bind this action to the function that is going to perform this action. So then after this you have to add it to the input mapping context. So what you can do is input, then create this input mapping context and add your own the function that you created and add a key to it. So I have assigned a key for toggling my lock on function on and off, right? So this is basically it, and you can save all. Then you go into your .cpp file, then you can just copy this, right? Then I will explain what is this. So let me just keep it organized, so it will be a lock on. And so this is basically a a pointer. So we are going to use a enhanced input component bind action function, which will include these parameters. So in first parameter will be an action. So the action which we need to perform when we press that particular key which we have given or assigned in right here in the input mapping context, right here, right? So and the second parameter will be the what we want to happen after we press the key. So we want that action to get triggered. So this is basically it, and this refers to this particular class. And here we are getting the address of the member function, which will be what toggle lock on, and the action which we are going to create will be what was the name of our IA lock on, I guess, yeah, right. So this is going to be basically it for adding your key binding to the function so that it performs the function that we have created. Now we will define the function. You can go into the .h file and you can right click on this and create a through here you can create a definition for both of these, or you can create your own definition. So I'm going to right click on it, then go to create definition of lockdown. Let me just copy this or cut this and paste it right at the end, and let me create a definition for it. So now the the green line under the toggle lock on disappeared. So what it exactly means is we haven't declared the variable the function earlier, so it appeared like that. So now we can do, now I have created this function too. So now it has disappeared, right? So now this will work fine. So we are going to use if statements, right, to perform decisions in Unreal Engine. So if we want to know if we are logged on to something, and if we are logged on to something, we will perform something, right? And if we are not logged on to something, we are going to perform something else. So this is basically will happen if we use if statement. So if, and let me just give default values to my variables which I have created. So my where let it be where, right? So let me just give default values to my variables. So first is logged on. So it is of the type boolean, so we are going to give it the default value should be false. Lockdown actors, and this will be a null, and the targeting height offset, you can change this height offset when you are done with the lock on system. So let me give it a value. So I will give it a value of 20.0 as it is a float value. So yes, so by default we are not locked on to any character, and the lockdown actor will be null, so we are not locked on to any actor, right? And the null pointer is basically a special, or you can say it points toward null memory, so not a single memory location. So, and it holds a special value which is basically 0. So now we can work on our if statement. So first you will pass is logged on. So we want to check if is logged on is true, then we will do something, right? So what I'm doing here is, if this if this statement is true, then what I'm going to do. So then I will set my is logged on equals to false, and I will set logged on actors to be null, right? Then for the else part, we are going to do if is logged on is not true, then we are going to run the else part, right? And what I have checked here is, if we are logged on to something, we want to toggle it off, the toggle the lock on function to off. So we are going to set the values to false, and we want our logged on actor to be null, so it is not logged on to any particular character that we have added as an enemy, right? Then the second we will do is we will say if logged on enemy is the array that we created, right? Dot num is greater than 0. So what will we do? We will say the lockdown actor will be equal to the lockdown enemies. So let me type lockdown enemies, and we will assign it a space in the array. So what I did here is I checked if lockdown enemies .num function is used to know exact number of elements present in an array, right? And the lock on enemies is basically an array. So we are checking if the the lockdown enemies, if the array has the elements inside of it greater than 0, then we will say the lockdown actor. Then we will add this lockdown actor to the lockdown enemies array and give it index or a space in the particular array itself. So I will explain, this if else statement or this function in the blueprint also. So let me just create another if statement. So this statement will work on the lockdown actor. So if lockdown actor is true, we want lockdown is lockdown to be true. So we want this. So if we are locked on to an actor, so we will say that we are locked on, right? And to make this function check every single tick, every single frame, so we don't lose the system. you know I clicked on the particular keybind that I assigned, and then it will work, and after some time it disappears, right before I even click the key again to toggle it off. So we are going to check this function every single tick, and here I will refer to the parent class tick of tick function. So oh my bad, and the variable will be delta time, parameter will be delta time. So we are basically overriding the main parent class of this tick function, and here I will say if lockdown if is lockdown is true, right? What happened here? My bad. If is lockdown is true, then and if lockdown actor is true, so we want our function to follow up, so it doesn't disappear without even clicking the key which we have assigned for the toggle function to work, right? We will use f rotator, which is basically a structure used for uh, the basic for the basic rotations. So the pitch is basically the related to x-axis, and the yaw which we use in Unreal Engine is related to z-axis, and the roll is related to your y-axis. So this is basically it, and we are going to name it look at. So in here we are going to set our character's look direction. So let me just so before that we have to include the Kismet math library to use this library's function, which is basically to find the actor's location. So we are going to use Kismet library, and we are going to use its function, which is basically find look at rotation, so we know where we are looking. So here we will pass two parameters. The first one is where our we can say where our character is located, and the second is where our the target or the lockdown actor is located, right? So the first one we will pass is the get actor location, which is basically p of our character, right? So this is related to our character, the first one, and the second one will be of lockdown. So lockdown actor, oh my bad, and we want, as it is a pointer, so we want it to be get the actor location for this one. So this is going to be it, and after this we are going to set the look at the rotation. Let me just change this. we are going to set look at rotation dot pitch to -1. So what, oh my bad, we are going to check the rotation in which we are looking. So let me just change this up. So this will be, oh my bad, so this will be the rotation. So now we are going to change the look at rotation pitch, which is basically the pitch is related to x-axis. So and we want to change the variable which we created, which is basically the targeting height offset. Here I did something wrong, I think so. I think I did this part wrong. Yeah, right. So now this is good, this is working. And now we are going to set the look at or we can say the controller or the our characters rotation to the look at rotation. So in the in the direction of the character which we have created as an enemy, right? So we are going to this is a function, right? So we are using this function to get the actors location of the lockdown actors. So for example the enemy itself, right? And now we are going to set the controller, get controller, and now we are going to set its rotation towards the enemy. So we will use set, oh this is also a function, so my bad. Then we are going to use this to set the actor control rotation. So we are going to set controller rotation, so control rotation, and we will pass the parameter which we have created look at rotation. So and this part we are going to check every single tick or frame, so we never miss our the lock on system when we are locked on to something. So this basically does that. And now we have to do some part in the blueprint itself. So now we are going to open up the third person character in the Unreal Engine, and here we will create a box collision. So and you can name it anything, right? You can also add a sphere collision or any other collision which is available right here. So why we are using a box collision? So through this we are going to know how many actors we are colliding with, so that we can add those actors into into the enemy array that we have created. So through this we are going to know the collision details, so that we can say that is an enemy, that is an enemy, that is not an enemy, right? See, so you want to differentiate it with other actors or etc etc, right? And what we have to do is you want to set its collision to custom. So you go right here and set it to be world static object type. Then you can only pawn, so you want only pawn to interact with this box collision, so no other actor collides with it, and you don't get any errors through it. So I will set the box collision to be 1515 size. So anything in colliding with this box collision around my character is going to be added onto onto the array of lockdown enemies. So and it will be named as a lockdown target or lockdown actor which we have created, right? Then what we have to do is go into the event graph, and here we want you know to give this box the definition, right? So what we will do is go into the onto the events, and we will create an begin overlap and an end overlap. So what will happen when something enters this box, right? And what will happen when something, you know is outside of the box or goes outside of this box collision. So here we will create the enemy. So I'm going to cast you know the enemy, which I'm going to use is basically the third person character. You can cast it into it, right? And I'm going to use my the variable that I created, which is basically logged on. uh, so this is not appearing right here, so let me, oh, I haven't built the solution, so let me just build up the solution and then hot reload. So this is successful. Before all of these you have to do this part, right? Then only your code will work. So now I will access the variables that I have created. They all appear under my variables category, right? And here I will use the array, get array, and I will set it to unique, right? So I will set, or add unique. So what I will do is, let me just create this, then I will explain. So what I did here is I cast it to my third person character enemy, or the blueprint that I created for enemy through child, just clicking on it and creating a child blueprint class. Then I added this particular character to my lockdown enemies array. You can also add it simple add, but you want to add unique enemies, and you don't want to you know when you add same enemies into the array and you don't remove those arrays, it or the enemies that you have included in the array, then it will create something you don't want to expect from the code itself. So here also I will cast it to it, and then I will remove, let me just remove item. So I will remove this particular after the collision ends with my box. So I want it to be removed, and I will use this lockdown enemies. So let me just delete this, then add or remove, remove item from the array, right? And after the collision ends, I want to remove my enemy from the array, so we don't waste any of our time or in compiling, etc. So we want to dereference everything right after we create anything, right? And then what we have to do is we have to go here, and then we will search for my let me just go into here, right? You can click on the third person character, and under the details we have my function, so my variables, right? So here are all the variables that I created under the my variables tab or the category. So here we can set change or set our variables, and here we are going to select the IA lock on action. So we can use the key binding to perform the function that we created just right now. So now we can test the function which we have created. So let me just close this window up and click right here, then start. watching, and if you like the video, please subscribe and share.